The law office in Lone Creek Springs smelled like furniture polish and broken dreams. Timothy Anderson sat in the waiting room with his hands resting on his knees, watching dust move slowly in the sunlight that slipped through the blinds. At 38, he looked older than his years. Fire had done that to him. 12 years as a wildland firefighter had carved lines into his face and left a thin scar along his jaw from a falling branch during the Yellowstone fires. His green eyes carried a tired, distant look, the kind that came from seeing too much land burn and too many good men lose hope. Across from him sat his sister Vanessa. She was scrolling through her phone, her manicured nails tapping the screen with impatience. Her designer suit looked out of place in the small-town office. Vanessa had done well for herself, turning small towns into luxury developments. But she had not looked at Timothy once since they arrived. They had barely spoken since their mother's funeral 10 years earlier. The door opened and Gerald Piton stepped out. He was thin and bent with age, his wire-rimmed glasses perched low on his nose. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Please come in." They followed him into the office. Vanessa's heels clicked sharply on the floor. Piton sat behind a heavy oak desk and opened a thick folder marked Estate of Douglas Anderson. Timothy's chest tightened. His father had died 3 weeks earlier from a sudden heart attack, collapsing under the Montana sun while repairing a fence line during the worst drought the valley had ever seen. Piton spoke calmly. "Your father's estate is mostly the Anderson Ranch, 3,000 acres in Redstone Valley, the house, the barn, and the remaining livestock." Vanessa leaned forward. "And the value?" Piton hesitated. 5 years ago, it would have been worth around $4 million. But with the drought and the water situation, the current value is much lower. "How much lower?" she snapped. "About 300,000, possibly less." Vanessa's face flushed. "That land is worthless," Piton continued. "Your father left 40,000 from life insurance and 15,000 in savings to Vanessa." He paused. "The ranch, all equipment, and the horse named Billy go to Timothy." The room went silent. Vanessa stood up, furious. "That ranch is dead dirt. You get land that can't grow grass, and I get scraps." Timothy finally spoke. "Then why does it matter?" Piton cleared his throat again. "There is also a letter for Timothy." Timothy opened it slowly and read his father's shaky words aloud. The letter spoke of the land not dying, of a horse who knew something, of water hidden where no one thought to look. His father asked him to trust Billy and trust the land. Vanessa laughed bitterly. He lost his mind. Timothy folded the letter. "I'm keeping the ranch." Vanessa shook her head. "That place will ruin you." But Timothy was already standing. He thanked Piton and walked out, leaving Vanessa's anger behind. The drive north into Redstone Valley showed him just how bad things had become. Brown fields stretched for miles. Creeks were nothing but cracked mud. Ranches stood empty, some already marked with signs of Mountain Crest Corporation. The Anderson Ranch sat against the foothills, silent and worn down by years of struggle. When Timothy stepped out of his truck, a sharp whinny cut through the still air. Billy stood in the corral, a paint horse with bright white and deep brown patches. His eyes were dark and alert, fixed on Timothy. Instead of backing away, Billy stepped forward and pressed his muzzle gently against Timothy's chest, right over his heart. It felt like recognition. That night, Timothy explored the ranch and found ledgers showing his father's slow defeat by drought. He slept little, guilt heavy on his chest. At dawn, Billy whinnied again, loud and urgent. Timothy saddled him and followed as the horse led him toward the foothills, past dry creek beds and dead grass. Billy climbed into a narrow canyon and stopped between two boulders. Then he pawed the ground. Timothy knelt and touched the soil. It was damp. His heart began to race as he dug deeper, and water slowly seeped into the hole. Billy watched him closely, ears forward, calm and certain. Timothy sat back, staring at the ground in disbelief. Something had been hiding here all along. Timothy stayed on his knees for a long time, watching the water slowly gather in the shallow hole he had dug. It was not mud or illusion. It was real. cold, clear water rising from the earth where everyone said nothing but dust remained. His hands shook as he touched it again, pressing his fingers deeper. The soil stayed wet. Billy let out a low, satisfied sound and stood still, as if his job here was done. Timothy looked around the narrow canyon with new eyes. The rock walls were steep, layered, and capped in a way he recognized from years in the wilderness. Firefighting had taught him how to read land. This place was holding water, trapped and protected beneath stone. His father had been right. The land was not dead. It was waiting. By the time Timothy rode back to the ranch, the sun was high and his mind was racing. Hope felt dangerous after so many years of loss, but he could not ignore what he had seen. The next morning, he drove into town to see Walt Parsons, the oldest well driller in Redstone Valley. Walt listened with crossed arms and a doubtful look. "Son, I've drilled dry holes all over this valley," he said. "There's no water left." "Come look," Timothy replied. Walt sighed but agreed. In the canyon, his tools told the truth. His expression changed from doubt to shock. "I'll be damned," Walt muttered. "This is a confined aquifer, deep, pressurized, strong." "How much to drill?" Timothy asked. Walt named the price, and Timothy's stomach sank. He did not have that kind of money. Still, he nodded. "I'll find a way." Word spread faster than Timothy expected. Other ranchers came quietly, eyes wide as they saw water flowing from the test hole. Hope crept back into the valley, slow but steady. That hope did not go unnoticed. One afternoon, a black SUV rolled up the Anderson driveway. Two men stepped out, clean and confident. The older one introduced himself as Richard Colton from Mountain Crest Corporation. He offered Timothy a chair on the porch and got straight to business. "We'll give you $400,000 for the ranch," Colton said. "Cash. Fast." Timothy shook his head. "No." The offer climbed. So did the pressure. When Timothy still refused, Colton's smile disappeared. "This valley is changing," he warned, "with or without you." That night, Timothy searched his father's old papers and found something that made his blood run cold. Geological surveys. Notes about possible underground water in the foothills. Mountain Crest had known. They were not buying land. They were buying water. Timothy realized then that this fight was bigger than him. He posted his story online, not expecting much, but help came. Grants, loans, support from people who still believed land mattered more than money. Within weeks, Walt's drill was back in the canyon. When the drill finally broke through, water burst upward with force and life. Strong, clean, enough to save a ranch. Billy stood nearby, calm as ever. The valley heard the news, and hope spread like rain after drought. But Mountain Crest did not back down. Lawyers came next, then sabotage. Fences cut, equipment damaged, then fire. One night, Billy screamed. Timothy ran outside to see flames climbing his house. The fire department saved most of it, but the message was clear. Sheriff Bradshaw looked Timothy in the eye. "These are powerful people." Timothy looked back at the ranch, at Billy standing watch in the dark. "It's still worth it," he said. The next morning, reporters arrived, and the fight truly began. The story spread far beyond Redstone Valley. News trucks lined the dirt road. Cameras followed Timothy and Billy into the canyon, where water poured from the ground like a miracle. Reporters called it impossible. Old ranchers called it hope. Environmental groups called it proof that the land had been stolen through fear and lies. Mountain Crest felt the pressure immediately. Their lawyers filed claims, arguing water rights and ownership. The judge ruled against them. The aquifer beneath Timothy's land belonged to him, and every rancher had the right to reach water under their own soil. Appeals followed, but public opinion had already turned. Then the truth came out. Investigators tied the ranch fire and vandalism to contractors linked to Mountain Crest. The company denied it, but investors grew nervous. Stock prices fell. Partners pulled out. What was once a proud development plan became a public disaster. Richard Colton returned one final time. No smile. No threats. "You've won," he said quietly. "We're leaving the valley." Within months, Mountain Crest sold back land they had taken. Families returned. Wells were drilled. Grass slowly replaced dust. Cattle came home. Children laughed where silence once lived. Billy became a symbol. He did not understand the cameras or the praise. He only knew he had done what he was meant to do. Timothy rebuilt the ranch slowly. He did not rush. He honored the land the way his father had taught him. Water flowed. The valley lived again. Vanessa came one afternoon quieter than Timothy remembered. She admitted she had been wrong. About the ranch, about him, about what mattered. Timothy said little. He did not need to. A small plaque was placed in the canyon by the ranchers of Redstone Valley. It honored Douglas Anderson and Billy. Timothy stood there one evening, hand resting on Billy's neck, watching green grass move in the wind. The ranch that was once called worthless had saved them all, because one man listened and one horse refused to stay silent.